Good evening. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you and thank you for joining this unique Light Up a Life Remembrance Ceremony. My name is Shannon McCowett, and I'm the Executive Director of Hospice of San Luis Obispo County. For over 44 years, we have provided non-medical hospice services through emotional, social, and spiritual support to children and adults who are grieving or living with life-threatening illnesses. This is our 37th annual Light Up a Life season, and tonight's ceremony is being live-streamed and recorded. The COVID-19 pandemic has precluded many people from saying goodbye to their loved ones, and many have not been able to hold or attend funeral services. Hospice of San Luis Obispo County is honored to give the community a precious opportunity to memorial the lives of someone loved and lost. I would like to acknowledge that for some of you, it may not have been easy to join us, to be in touch with your grief, and I commend your courage. Tonight, we join to honor and remember loved ones. We use the symbolism of the lantern in our ceremonies to represent the light of the individuals who have been special in our lives. The illumination, warmth, and glow provided by the candles giving light to the lanterns symbolize the influence those individuals have had on who we are today. Grief is a natural, necessary, and universal process, and yet everyone experiences loss differently. Anyone we grieve has touched our life in some way. Through memories shared and through lessons learned, these relationships have presented the opportunity for growth. It is through our feelings that we find meaning in even the most difficult of losses, and it is how we keep loved ones close to our hearts. Throughout this ceremony, you will be hearing the beautiful voices of our Threshold Choir. Threshold singers sing for those at the thresholds of life and dying by offering a calm and focused presence with gentle voices, simple songs, and sincere kindness. In pairs and trios, they sing for individuals experiencing life-limiting or end-of-life conditions, providing peace and tranquility to clients, families, and caregivers alike. We hope these songs are soothing and reassuring for you tonight. Once again, thank you for joining us in this remembrance ceremony.
Good evening. My name is Tony Huffaker. I serve as the Counseling Director of Hospice of San Luis Obispo County, and I was asked to give our hospice message. Tonight, I'd like to talk with you on how grief has changed during the last 2 years and how we can continue to honor our loved ones while taking care of ourselves. In Shannon's message, I heard references to the isolation of our times. In the best of times, many of us are inadequately supported in our grief, as friends and loved ones don't get it. This is surely not the best of times. As Shannon pointed out, some here tonight haven't been able to have a memorial for their loved one due to the pandemic. We have lived with COVID-19 for so long that many of our losses are becoming invisible to us. Our griefs are becoming what Kenneth Doka calls disenfranchised griefs, a grief that isn't openly acknowledged, socially accepted, or publicly mourned. During the pandemic, many more kinds of deaths have become disenfranchised and not mourned in the way we would have wished. When our grief is not acknowledged, it can make it harder for us to deal with it. So how do we mourn a disenfranchised grief, or any grief for that matter? I would suggest that we start by practicing what I've heard described as radical self-care, taking care of ourselves to the point that we may even have our pages stick together, begin to feel uncomfortable with making ourselves such a priority. This is a time to take care of ourselves physically and emotionally. When we're grieving, something as simple as remembering to drink our 8 glasses of water a day or to go outdoors and take a walk is a huge victory. Emotionally, to sit with our feelings of grief is, as one of my colleagues says, the hardest and bravest work we'll ever do. Giving ourselves permission to rest as much as we can, eat as well as we can, and to focus on ourselves is crucial when we're grieving. Part of self-care is to find people who are supportive of us in our grief. People may mean well, but those who want us to move on or to look at the positive are not who we need in the middle of our struggle. The people who are most helpful to us in our mourning are the people who completely listen and who let us come to our own understanding of our loss. They don't necessarily give us advice, but are able to offer what worked for them in their grief. Support groups are often a good way to find people who have had similar experience in their grief and are willing to listen. The last part of self-care I want to talk about is ritual. We often think of ritual as a very formal thing, the established form for a ceremony, according to my old Webster's. But for we the bereaved, the power of ritual is in its liminal quality, its ability to connect us between our world and wherever we believe the experience of our loved one is. Far be it from me to say Webster's is incorrect, but I find that for us, the smallest of rituals can be the most powerful. The lighting of a candle on their favorite holiday, the small personal possessions carried on us, the retelling of our and their favorite family stories, all these can nurture us as well or better than many a formal ritual. So by being here tonight, by taking care of yourself, by surrounding yourself with people who support you, and by engaging in ritual, you are practicing self-care. My wish for you is that you continue to practice it through this holiday season and beyond. I now have the pleasure of introducing Rabbi Janice Mehring, a member of our board of directors, who will give us tonight's inspirational message.
So it is my honor to be here with you all tonight and to share some words of hope in this time of remembrance. We gather tonight with a sense of responsibility to remember our loved ones. We also have feelings of gratitude for the lives they lived and the gift that they left us. But also we come together, of course, with our feelings of sadness and grief. And the depth of the grief that we feel, that only speaks more strongly to the meaning of our loved one's life. We are still so connected to the people that have gone before us. They are still so much a part of us because so much of who we are is because of them. And just as Shannon and Tony acknowledged, we want to know and recognize that our grief and our pain is more acutely felt over these past many months, when we couldn't gather, when we couldn't be together to support each other in loss or to help each other bear the burden of grief in the ways that we are used to doing. So for me, it's a great comfort to finally be able to be together with you, to look out and see your faces, and to see you, and let you know that we are here for each other. So I want to share with you some song lyrics, and we'll all take a deep breath first because these are heavy, weighty words. They go like this: I've seen dark before, but not like this. This is cold and empty and numb. The life I knew is over. The lights are out and I feel ready to succumb. I follow you around like I always have, but you've gone to a place I cannot find. This grief has a gravity that pulls me down. Those words, those weighty words, are sung by Anna. And if you have children or grandchildren, or you are a fan of Disney movies, you know that Anna is one of the main characters in the movie Frozen. Now, Frozen is this mystical tale of legends from northern Scandinavia, and you don't have to know the whole plot, and you don't even have to have seen the movie. But what you need to know is that Anna, she fears her sister has died. She has lost both of her parents, and her dear friend Olaf, who is a living snowman, he suddenly dissolves into snow flurries and is carried away on the wind. And so she is bereft. She's bereft of the loss of her parents and now her two closest companions. And in these words, we hear her. She is just overcome by her grief. It closes in on her like a cold, dark night, and she feels numb. She feels ready to surrender to her grief. And anyone, all of you, all of us who have experienced the loss of a loved one can relate to those emotions. We know that feeling of having your world pulled out from under you, of not being able to imagine life without our parents or our spouse or our siblings or a child. And that grief, it does have a weightiness. It's heavy. It does feel like it pulls us down. But in the midst of her intense grief, Anna hears an inner voice calling her out through the darkness. And the voice says, "You may be lost and hope is gone, but you must go on and do the next right thing. Just do the next right thing. Take a step and then step again. It's all that you can do is that next right thing." So Anna says, "I won't look too far ahead because it's too much for me to take, but I'll break it down to this next breath, this next step. This next choice is one that I can make." So that still small voice in Anna's head says to her, even if hope seems far away, and all you need to do right now is take one step at a time. Just get through this next moment. Just do what is the best thing for you right now. And we all think of that still small voice. We call it different things. We name it differently depending on your background, your faith, your belief system. But this grief that we feel, this weightiness, it is more acute as this pandemic drags on and on. People are isolated from family. People are still separated from those that you would receive support from, people you would rely on, and we're removed from our activities and things that used to define us and bring us joy. So we feel frustrated. We feel out of control. But we can all go inward. We can all listen to that still small voice and focus on this moment, on taking one step at a time, and we can focus on our memories. Because remembering, it has a purpose. It's not just about the past, it's not just about looking backward, but it's also about looking forward. Our loved ones' names that we are going to hear tonight, when I hear my parents' names read, they're being read here in this present moment, and hearing their names and thinking about them, they continue to guide me. They continue to inspire me and give me hope and courage to live every day with meaning throughout the example that they set and because of the legacy that they left. So we will get through this time. We will move forward from grief to healing. And yes, things will not be the same again, but we can choose to support each other, to lift each other up, to support our caregivers, our mental health providers, and we can all make the choice to do the next right thing. Elizabeth Tregush wrote a beautiful memorial poem. I just want to share a bit of it with you. She writes, "When it's time for me to leave this world, don't think of me beneath the earth. Instead, think of me when the earth gives life to spring's first flowers, when summer rain fills the air with the rich, sweet scent of earth and grass and leaf and tree. Remember me when the sky is painted gold and red at day's beginning and at its end. Think of me in those moments when God's grandeur sweeps across the mountains and the oceans, when the rare gift of a rainbow unfurls in the sky. Remember me when you give birth to a new creation, when you paint a piece of the world in your own colors, when you give voice to a song, a poem, or a prayer. Think of me. Remember all the seasons we shared, and I will live on in you." So in closing, I will just share some final words from Anna. She says, "I'll walk through this night, stumbling toward the light, and I will do the next right thing. And with the dawn, what comes then? When it's clear that everything will never be the same again, then I'll make the choice to hear that voice, and I'll do the next right thing." Thank you.
Good evening. We are about to begin reading the names. Let me apologize in advance if a name is mispronounced or missed. We do our very best to read every name correctly. At the end, we'll ask if any name was missed or mispronounced, and ask that you say that name out loud. John Lujano, Irma Honeyman Lawton, Daniel Molina, Michael Honeyman, Kathy Silva, Jeannie Silva, Lou Silva, Dolores Wingy, Ina Martin, Cindy Sargent, Jim Sargent, Ted Workus, Mary Beth Workus, Dolores Workus, Rex Sant, Viola Sant, Chris Heinlein, Louise Hackey, Winifred Boyce, Bob Hain, James O. McCoy, Dawn Ellen McCoy, June B. Morris, James Dupre, Judy Watlet, Mary Iva Council, Dean H. Council Jr. Kelly, Virginia Monfredo, Angelina Giannico, Clint Mikado, Donna Birch, Dennis Gunnerman,
Jeff Meyer, Mike and Wilma Hermreck, Randy Hermreck, Andy Hermreck. The members of the St. Stephen's Episcopal Church who died in this past year: Clara Dentz, Aaron Dentz, Richard Antanovich, Tyson Anderson, Sonora G. Anderson, Troy Jacobs, the Dappins, the Schermerhorns, the Jacobs, Gretchen Haig, Kempton Quinn,
Jorge Laura Four, Jerry L. Frederick, Amber Monique Woodbury Wable, Zachary Young, Anne Marie Betancourt, Roger Niles, Mary Niles, Joan Mendoza, Gary Wood, Jeannie Pollock, Mel Pollock, Vicki Brown, Jack Reddy, Gil Babcock, Randy Babcock, Charlie Fagot, Rena Fagot, Maybelle Pence,
Matthew Gardner, Lydia Harper Marzano, Russell Lewis Fox, Venice McCollum, Ken McCollum, Glenn Sipe, Emma Sipe, Ethelene Graham, Callie, Jerry May, Mark May, Wanda Lucas, Bob Alvarado, Betty Lou Alvarado, Kathy Beeman, Brigitta Beeman.
Jack A. Brill, Helen Irene Gregory, Diana Jean White Brown, Robert J. McNeil, MD, Rita Vonat, Lee Smith, Jr., Mildred Dostalek, Victor Dostalek, Court Kinnison, Greg Stewart, Gregory John Stratton, Robert Grant, Jerry Gross, Anne Montgomery Martin, Vicki Taylor.
Cammie Dean, Patricia J. Wilkerson, Congressman Walter Capps, Patrick James Toomey, John Brooks, Jake Zedeker, Laverne Zedeker, Elaine Dam, Richard E. Leslie, Nancy Leslie Rollins, Lori Garcia, Terry Coddington, Shane Bennett, Cheryl Bennett, my mother Olympia, Alan Howard Michaels.
Cindy Ely, Dante Garcia, Michael Pavero, Francis Pavero, Margaret Darling, Dee Dee Valancourt, Falk Valancourt, Dr. Jean Scheiken, Elmer Willis Smith, Jerry Hanula, John Wendell Parker, Kenneth Jackson, Wilma Jackson.
Valentina Horingas, Frank Horingas, Glo Gulland, Hank Gulland, David Lyon, Robin Brancart, Robert Noel Brancart, Desi Mae Brancart, Patty Riley, Nancy Crawford, Ed Marcone, Dave Merriweather, Richard and Fusaka Toma, Bill and Evelyn Bisbee, Elise Robinson, Reginald and Louise Robinson, Lena Feldman, Ralph Feldman, Gussie Feldman, Dean Bonin, George Carpenter, Michael Tex Carpenter, Jake Jacobson, Valerie Kaufman Ayers, Robert Cornelius Baker, Owen Eister, Joan Latimer, Gracie Lynn Dodd, Theodore Ted Peter Copps, Edith Estrada, Samuel Estrada, Helen Texera, Marcel Texera, Caroline Carol J. Benitez.
Luis and Otilia Saplu, Jack Imig, Casey Lahua Bean, Robert, Bobby really, Francis Santos III, Dave Gottlieb, James Klein, Dorothy Klein, John Dodge, Bertha Dodge, Joanne Dodge Bliss, Christy McCowan, Clay Ossenkup,
Allison Reinhardt, Jean and Lloyd Villa, David Fossey, Juana Malatesta, Leonard Mansell, Jeff Tuck, Paul Stephen Gordon, Chris Wells, Jack Duck, Brad Evans, Greg Robert Bergstad, Ernest Cementina, Helma Cementina, Carl Brady, Irma Brady,
Bernice Carlson, Gwendolyn Munden, Kazuo Ikeda, Mitzi Ikeda, Paige Elizabeth Ikeda, Phyllis Anderegg, Patricia Anderegg, Dr. Richard Anderegg, Larry Cloglazier, Ashley Coglazier, Nicholas Coglazier, Gary Dean Suggs, Christopher Michael Clay, Ruth Maddox, Travis Benjamin Whitesides, Juanita Schaffer, Breck Jorgens,
Lynn Ballinger Sutton, Loretta Kearns, William Kearns, Martha Leora Matthews, David H. Matthews, Jack Yates, Mildred Yates, Claire Weish, Clara Weish, Jean Weish, Barbara Ann Rainey, Beverly Roca, Manuel Roca, Evelyn Raymond, George E. Raymond, Barbara Davis, Thelma Peckinpah,
Jeffrey Fred Porter, Nancy Adams, Mimi, Bob Adams, Terry A. McGee, Beatrice Cole, Herbert Cole, Rosalie G. Cadiz, Frederico Cadiz, Dennis D. Keene, John L. Keene, Urbano Robles, Ed and Evelyn Ferguson, Megan Rochelle Bonner, Carrie LaPlante, Mary LaPlante,
Ken Richardson, Frank Kasich, Harold Fay, Eleanor Morgan, Russell Morgan, Jean Pittman, Kathy Pultz, Carol Jean Goldstein, Justin C. Williams, John Palermo, Bob Lilly, J.P. Andre, Denny B. Ratliff, Ted Locker.
Darlene Nelson, Marion Nelson, Harold Joseph Green, Marjorie McNana, Virgil McNana, Frank Aragon, Celine Deal Mora, Margaret Chimachello, Austin, Howard and Ella McAllister, Norman and Betty Alberti, Jim McNamara, Charles Woodard, Evelyn Woodard, Ronald Roy Olson.
Marlo Miller, Felix Rusnak, Lillian Pomeroy Azevedo, Louise Azevedo, Ellen June Hutchinson, Rosa Sepulveda, Olga Molina Sepulveda, James Robert Rivera, Kathleen Carley, George Nino Molina, Doug Myers, Jerry Ellis, Jane Stolley, Tiffany Diane Lamb Corkins, Bill Van Horn, Babe Stringham.
Donna Kylier, Betta Cannon, Joseph Ski Adansky, Madge Ditchy, Helen Gehring, Bob Gehring, Ralph Leonhood, Charlotte Leonhood, David Leonhood, Hubert Pretty, Sevilla Pretty, Ruth Monroe, Patricia Renshaw McCord, Dean McCord, Lawrence Larson, Grace Burdick Larson.
Claire Stonehewer, Irene Stonehewer, Herbert Stonehewer, Peggy Lyons, Ann M. Brown, Russell D. Rosine, Jerry Weiss, Barbara J. Harshaw, Arnie Citran, Grant Allen Baldwin, John Karras, Teo Bosom, Paul Cushman.
Gary Carner, Dewey Peterson, Bud Davidson, Wanda Davidson, Mary Cunningham, Margaret Peggy Schuster, Jim Martin, Earl Cornwell, Christopher Denny Taylor, Fred Ernst, Elizabeth Deming Cartland, Walter Pothman, Hermione Pothman, Louis Matthew Tadone, Pat McClure, Phyllis Bergman, Bonnie Jo McLevore, Rosalind Ginge, John McNeil, Leonard Gerard Heaps, Donald Clark Duncan, Leslie Ann Below, Mary Ann Lucas, George Folks Jr., Howard Steinberg, Faye Steinberg, Richard Hoff, Dolores Hoff,
Shirley Trout, Michael Caney, Joanne Jennings, Judy Antic, Betsy Kelton, Don McGuire, Lane Wilson, Giuseppe Drago, Rose Drago, John Henricks, Ron McKenna, Terry Tilton, Randy Batt.
Aquinas Powers, Tom Waller, Ann Berard, Leo Berard, Kenneth Eklund, Stephen Powers, Francis Powers, Lee Poletti, Doris Shields, Eloy Pacheco, James Shields, Devon Crick, Connie Levins, Shoni Kadili, Caridad O'Connor, Anatalio Wee, Lee Yong Go Wee, John Adams, Sandy Lubin, Dawn Dibert, Richard Orndorff, Dolores Lola Hernandez Holton, Carmen Marie Brown, John Lakin, Jean Lakin, Margaret Jane Patmore, Richard Gillies, Philip Gillies, Aaron Matthew Trigstad, baby brother Trigstad, Mary Lennon, Ten Mazo, Paul Green, Jean Ullery, Ellsworth Ullery, Janice Hemingway Moore, Amy Adams Fields, Caroline Goodyear Adams, Howard Weinberg, Linda Darcy, Marcia Ross, Katharina Wolf, Bill Davis, Steve Brandt, Nancy Hodges, Ronald George Schmidt, David Lloyd Harris, John Hawkins, Jim McGreevy, Randy Kessler.
Jackie Robeson, Stan Robeson, Gloria Milan, Richard Milan, Christopher John Presley, Joseph Ryan Presley, Donald Arlo Olson, Rose Lavon White, Dave Williams, Paul Ellers, Tony Kelly, Bunny Laguina, Gwyneth Kiefer, Shelley Taylor, Harriet Hudgens Allen, General Hudgens.
Don Wilson, Stacy Wilson, Rocky Wiedenmeyer, Bonnie Wiedenmeyer, David Brechtel, Isabel Brechtel, Rosie Colton, Diane C. Hill, Francis Malcolm Johnson, Dustin Desjardins, Carrie Brown.
Connie Clucker, Don Clucker, Mike Lawler, Brian Lawler, Ed Jennings, Tyra Solomon, Marilyn Marie Britton. I'm having Tony's problem. There we go. Irvin Jekyll, Edith and Alex Ewell, Terry Keller Jr., Laura Millis Hansen, Elena Ramirez, Ian Andrew Kingsbury, Craig Roy, Ted J. Case.
Kathy Christensen, Bill O'Neill, Bonnie Gutierrez, Barbara Hutchinson, David E. Shaw, Wing Sing Fong, Roy N. Wolfe, Mary Emma Wolfe, Canon Vincent O'Hara, Father James O'Grady, Grant Everett Crowell, Zuza Hagedushe, Caroline Harris, Ron Berriman, Rosalind Hicks, John Hicks, Bob Henderson, Yoko Henderson, Jean Duffy, Warren Duffy, Gregory Crines, Augustus Crines, Shirley Fasnacht, Kushla Lovejoy, Judd Bailey, Betty Jo Parrish, Jeff Newman, John Splivolo, Robert Dunlap, Leandra Nicole Funkhauser, Mary M. Oldham, Lanny Blakeman, Lawrence Pollock, Tracy Height, Niall Height, Mike Kerr, Christian Louise Medzik, Edward Azevedo. The following names are those who people have chosen to honor in the ceremony tonight. Donnie Jensen, Doug Upchurch, Larry Dean Baldwin, Zella Agnes Conley, Rod and Jerry Graham, Bruce Rapp, Beth Kaminaka, Carol Simmering, Linda Robertson, Roberta Arabalo, Delu Brancart, Jerry D. Hill, Betty McCoy, the honor of my earthly protector, Chris Kington Barker, the Hospice SLO volunteers. Okay.
And I have some more people to read in memory of. Carlos Rusnak, Felix Rusnak, Francis and Howard Mansfield, Karen Strickwerda, Gwen Daubry, Gay Ortiz, David Ortiz, Mary Perez, Ricky Perez, Dr. Larry Hirsch, Matthew McFarland, Chelsea McFarland, Michael McFarland, Emma Murdoch, Agrippina Krieth, J. C. Stoddard, John Trevor Adams, Nancy Radovansky, Andrew Gunther, Jean Herrick, Bianca Greeno, Pauline Keeler, Marty McGrail, Faye Taylor, Mary Lou Davis, Roger Hanso, and my parents, Bob and Karen Mensink.
So if any names were mispronounced or we missed, we tried our best to do the correct pronunciations and to not miss anyone. If a name was missed or pronounced incorrectly and that person has family here, please feel free to stand and repeat the name correctly. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Our last song is a simple chant, and we encourage you to sing along with us if you feel so inclined. After we've sung it a few times, you will pick up the melody. And the words
The following Gaelic blessing was written by John O'Donoghue. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you. And when your eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into you, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken you a meadow of delight. When the canvas frays in the currach of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home. May the nourishment of the earth be yours. May the clarity of light be yours. May the fluency of the ocean be yours. And may the protection of the ancestors be yours. And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life.
Thank you, Patrick. That was beautiful. And thank you to Rabbi Janice, Tony Huffaker, our name readers, Bob Liepman on the cello, and the Threshold Singers. And an extra special thank you to Susan Olson, who coordinated and brought all of this together. It has been so wonderful to be in person and virtual this year. We will now be exiting the mission for the candle and tree lighting ceremony. In the past, we have gathered down the steps in Mission Plaza. Because of the numerous activities going on in the plaza, we are doing things differently this year. You may exit through the back door And we will be gathering at the tree on this side at the top of the steps right next to the mission. Please pick up your candle from a volunteer as you exit, and we will light our candles at the tree. And for those watching at home, this will all be recorded as well, so you can join us outside. And now Cello Bob will accompany our exit with his beautiful cello music. Thank you, Bob.
It looks like our candles are lit. Okay. As we are together experiencing the glow and the warmth of our lighted candles, please take a moment to close your eyes, holding your candles very carefully, and imagine the light and warmth of that flame finding a place in your heart. Feel the light from the memories we have been sharing here tonight light you up from the inside. Now, imagine sending that light and warmth to our hospice tree. And as we all open our eyes, let's together blow out our candles and feel the warm glow of our cherished memories. Okay. There we go, yay! Remember, our memories will be there for us in the coming season.
So this is one final memory poem, and this is one that we're all going to participate in together. It has a similar theme. Yes, similar theme. Right. Yeah, it's going in and out. We'll do our best, and if it goes out, I'll speak loudly. So this is a poem, a prayer called We Remember Them, written by Rabbi Jack Reamer and Sylvan Kamens. And so I'll say a line, and then your response is We Remember Them. At the rising sun and at its going down, at the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, at the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, at the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, at the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of the autumn, at the beginning of the year and when it ends. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have decisions that are difficult to make, when we have joy we crave to share, when we have achievements that are based on theirs. For as long as we live, they too will live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Thank you all for being here tonight and for being a part of the hospice family. And we see you and we share with you in your memories, in your sadness, in your grief, and we're wishing you all health and wellness in the year to come.
If you could please drop off your candle at the front table, that would be great. Thank you.